Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about quite the unique character, quite a unique dive for my channel, and that is Liu Kang from the Mortal Kombat series. Enough Street Fighter, enough Tekken, let's dive into the goriest game in the room. So I'm not gonna lie, I've been quite the Mortal Kombat fan for quite a while now, since MKX actually. I'm not gonna pretend like I was into it before that. MKX is where I hopped on, and ever since then I've loved the entire franchise. I've looked back and looked at a lot of the lore and all that, but I haven't really dived into it power scaling wise until the making of this video, so forgive me if I get a couple things wrong, such as the cosmology of the verse and stuff like that. I'm just going off how I've understood things and my interpretation of a lot of the details given to us so far. We're going to dive really deep into this, so without further ado, let's begin the video. How strong is Liu Kang exactly? I think it's important that before we even dive into, how much he can blow up, let's go into his skills as a fighter in general. He's a martial artist, of course, probably the best, or at least one of the best martial artists in the entire verse. He matches often with Kung Lao, who was trained by the great Kung Lao. In fact, he surpasses Kung Lao. Whether you want to get into that's because of his stats and not his actual skill. To each their own, but his manipulation with fire seems more adept than I've seen any character manipulate their abilities. Liu Kang could pretty much do anything with his fire. He can fire it as a fireball, he can coat himself around it, he could turn into a dragon, he could create small little projections of dragons, he can do all sorts of things with his fire abilities. Kick him off his feet, he could enchant his fist and legs with fire. Whatever you can think he can do with fire, he probably can. We see that he can also amp his stats by coating himself in fire, and on top of that, he can teleport with fire. I don't know how that works, but, Liu Kang could do that as well. He's also able to summon light and create orbs of light. It's like projectiles. He can heal himself with this light. It's called, I believe it was Yang, and then he has Yin, which is his dark manipulation. However, his skill with those two elements I don't think are as adept as his fire abilities. He doesn't really use them often. With that said, the important thing to note about the two styles is that, he can heal himself. Keep that in mind when debating versus battles with Liu Kang. So with the intro of Liu Kang out of the way, his skills and stuff, I think it's about time we go into the important bits, which is his actual power. Let me go on and say that Mortal Kombat is extremely inconsistent. It is very difficult to tell at first glance how strong some of these characters are, since feats are kind of scarce in the verse, at least for most of the cast that aren't the top tiers. That's why we're going to divide this in kind of the top tier half and then the low tier half, or the conservative half, and then the balls to the walls. Let's throw everything second half of the video. For one, the first thing he does, he's at minimum small building when weakened, as he battled Jax, who scales to Sonya, who is capable of battling Oni warlords, which are capable of destroying buildings and stuff like that. It's just a scaling thing, and Liu Kang is pretty consistently above the two of them. I don't know if anyone's going to argue Jax or Sonya can beat him in a fight. But things start getting a lot more interesting as he becomes more city block level, as he can dive bomb an entire army. This is later in his fire god form, but it's a good feat. We'll get to a more fire god later on. We know that things in the verse like Shinnok's amulet are capable of destroying entire warships, and we've seen characters take attacks from the amulet, characters that do scale to Liu Kang, so the fact that he can tank these ship-destroying attacks is pretty crazy. Likely he can just do the same thing. On a lesser note of his durability, he did take a direct attack from Quan Chi's, his spiritual skull projectile or whatever, which again is a building level attack, as scaling to other people like Scorpion, scaling above him actually, if you want to talk about the original Quan Chi. But if you want to talk about new timeline Quan Chi, he's not all that impressive. Speaking of guys that scale to Quan Chi, we also have Shang Tsung, who got laid out by Liu Kang with a flying kick to the face, which is pretty dope. It's a pretty dope way to take somebody out. And the fact that his foot can take out someone who's like building level, that means that he really doesn't even need like his fire to be building level. Just his raw power of his kicks can likely do the same thing. Now we're going to kind of take a detour to Liu Kang's speed, where it's lightning level. I don't really care about hearing it not being lightning level. He constantly fights guys like Raiden, and if he wasn't lightning level, why the hell wouldn't Raiden just spam lightning every time they battle, or spam lightning against everyone he fights just to win? So clearly a lot of the characters in the verse, in fact most characters in the verse, are lightning timers. I don't think that's really up for debate. Now funny enough, that's kind of where the lower end feats end. There isn't really much to go off of with Mortal Kombat like characters. Like, good luck finding a feat with like Kung Lao or Goro or anyone like that. Maybe in the comics they like destroyed a boulder or something, but I wasn't really able to pick up anything on it. So that's why we're going to jump into kind of the crazy shit that a lot of the Elder Gods and the top tiers and Blaze, we're about to jump into all that. Now, it's important to note that there are 6 realms, and these realms, at least the Nether realm, is infinite in size. It is basically a universe-sized pocket, and this is stated by the director of the game, and this is stated by Sub-Zero in the actual canon. If you're not really catching my drift of what's going on, Blaze was able to destroy all the realms. This would put Blaze at a ridiculous universal tier. I know that sounds insane, but there's really no two ways about it. And if you want to call it an outlier, it's actually not, considering we have a lot more feats like that and we're about to get into them. But hold on, let's ease into the universal scale. Let's go with the planetary scale for a second. There's quite a few pieces of evidence that signify that the Mortal Kombat characters are actually planetary. If you really want to get into it, Kronika turns insanely giant. And I know that people want to say, oh, this is a gameplay mechanic. She can't actually turn that big. She can turn that big, and she can destroy the planet. The reason being, she scales to Shinnok, who battled Raiden, and their battle actually threatened to destroy the Earth. That would mean that Raiden actually scales to planetary, not even the Elder Gods. Lesser characters can scale to planetary. Even if you want to argue planetary, there's no arguing things like continental, as even if Setron had the mass of a balloon, she'd still be able to do massive damage to the planet. We're gonna now go into Shao Kahn, as he has a few crazy things as well. So Raiden's battle with Shinnok that shook the planet, it's not even like, that's like a little further. We can even go lesser, as Raiden shook the core of the earth in his battle with Shao Kahn even. Shao Kahn also absorbs Blaze, so obtaining his power, likely making Shao Kahn planetary to universal. It's really crazy shit. This isn't even me being biased. I was trying to understand how characters go from like wall and building level to universal, but this is just how it works. You cannot argue with the evidence here. And we're going to keep going with such evidence. If you want more evidence that even the lesser characters aren't actually like building level, Sub-Zero, someone who's like not weak, but he's not like top tier. The old Sub-Zero was able to scrap with Quan Chi and Shinnok, these characters that, let's face it, Shinnok is planetary. This would mean that Quan Chi, who's at least able to scale to him somewhat, has to be around the multi-continental, and Sub-Zero is able to scrap with this guy. Kronika is also universal, as she's able to affect all the timelines and all the realms. Pretty much an even better feat than Blaze did, because Kronika was actually able to affect multiple timelines as well, and Liu Kang scales above that. In fact, he kind of washed Kronika really badly. So there you go. That's how strong Liu Kang is. I know it's absolutely insane. So his base form, which scales to Shao Kahn, it may already be universal, which is insane. At minimum, it's like planetary due to scaling the Raiden, who's able to fight Shinnok, and Sub-Zero is able to do the same thing. So Liu Kang's base is planetary to universal if we say that he's equal to the Shao Kahn that took Blaze's power. But to be safe, we could just say he's planetary. And then you have the Sun God Liu Kang, which is easily universal due to the Blaze feat, the Chronica feat. It's insane. So there you go. That's how strong Liu Kang is. If you want a more in-depth take, check out this video here. It's a really great video that goes way more in-depth on the matter than I did. He goes at it for an hour, which is pretty awesome. I enjoyed the video a lot, so check it out as well. If you guys liked my video, make sure you like, subscribe, share the video. Check out my social media platforms. It'd help me a ton. I'd appreciate it. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and I'm out. Bye.